Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to more 428 Shibuya Scramble. My name is Raven from the Sky. Let's do this. He told me I don't like having to do this. Can't wait any longer. Look of determination. Oh, we already read this. Shoulders began to tremble. Protecting Hitomi is my job, Aichi. Aichi, you're back. I said I'd see you through to the very end. Didn't I? Yeah, you did. Hitomi gazed back at Aichi with grateful reassurance. Ahem. Kano cleared his throat softly. But Aichi and Hitomi continued to stare earnestly at one another. Eventually, the tough-looking young man standing beside Aichi spoke up. I've got 30. Will that be enough? Yeah, Kano nodded. That'll be fine. More importantly, have you heard what we'll be doing yet? Catch the bad guy. Keep Shibuya safe. Same old thing we always do. You got Flash to grin. You got it, Kano said. We'll be counting on you then. With 30-odd people at their disposal, they'd be able to encircle the meeting area no problem. The preparations were all set. Time to confront Alphard at last. All right, detective, Archie shouted, let's do this. Kano gave a firm nod. Nine minutes later, 6:59 p.m., Kano and the others were in position around the scramble. Each separate tick of the second hand was like a sharp prod to Kano's nerves. His whole body was stiff with tension. They could not let themselves fail. There was too much at stake. Here, now. Hundreds of thousands of lives were on the line. With Shibuya on lockdown, the area around the scramble had been seized by panic, and there had been multiple traffic collisions. Sidewalks were crowded with scared people. Overturned cars and abandoned motorcycles clogged the streets. Amidst the chaos, emergency vehicles sped at furious speeds. But the fire and emergency personnel and even the police were shorthanded. And the whole of Shibuya had begun to look like a war zone. The main roads had been blocked to normal traffic, and trains weren't stopping at the stations. In effect, the city was in a state of complete shutdown. Kano glanced again at his wristwatch. 6:59 p.m. and 10 seconds. 11 seconds, 12 seconds, 13 seconds, 14 seconds. He scarcely remembered to breathe. Hitomi stood in front of the statue of Hachiko. She wasn't carrying an attaché case this time, but the moment was otherwise a strange mirror of the stakeout at 10 o'clock that morning. Oh. She looked terrified. Kano couldn't blame her. The criminals weren't after some case full of money this time. This time, they were out for blood. Her blood. Kano did a slow scan of the area. Archie was standing not too far away. His companions were strewn about here and there, carrying it on as normal. Here in Shibuya, those guys fit right in with the crowd. And they had the area around Hitomi completely surrounded. Yet again, Kano looked at his watch. 6:59 p.m., 35 seconds, 36 seconds, 37 seconds, 38 seconds, 39 seconds. He forced himself to take several deep breaths. He focused on the sound of his own heartbeat and exhaled until all the breath was expelled from his lungs. And then it all started. Kano's cell phone rang. I've got him. It was Daisuke. What? The organ trafficker who devised the kidnapping? It's him? Where is he? Kano asks. Is he close by? I've got him on the camera now. He's on the other side of the intersection. Kano looked out across the scramble. There were so many people that it was hard to tell who was or wasn't suspicious. Can you describe him for me? The tall foreign guy, the one wearing glasses, a tall foreigner. Kano's eyes drifted over the crowd. Oh! Aha! There he was. And as he got closer, Kano's eyes went wide. This man was someone he'd met before. Leland Palmer, the lecturer from the English department at Hitomi and Maria's school? Oh my God! That's him? No way! Is he Alphard? Palmer was walking right toward Hitomi. Hitomi didn't seem to have noticed him yet. Oh, no way. When Kano glanced back at his wristwatch, it was 7 p.m. on the dot. No way. Look at her face. When Hitomi realized Palmer was approaching her, she was too stunned to react. He walked directly up to her, the corners of his mouth curling up into a smile. Hello, Hitomi, he said, in English. How are you doing? Professor Palmer? What are you doing here? Hitomi's voice came out in an anxious squeak. What? Why, I'm here to take your blood, of course. This time he spoke Japanese and with an easy fluency totally different from his usual manner of speech. I'm the one who injected you with the UA virus. It's him. I've been waiting so long for the opportunity to arise. It's been quite agonizing, you know, spending 6 months and more pretending to be a mild-mannered English lecturer. Professor, you're Alphard, aren't you? Let's get down to business, shall we? Neither of us has much time. You tell me stiffened. Please, tell me the laboratory password. After I have your blood. This will only take a few seconds. I've got a device here that will make the extraction quite simple. No way. The password first. That will violate the terms we already negotiated. Hitomi and Palmer glared at one another. All right, Hitomi said at last. Why don't you negotiate with Kanan instead? Kanan? Hitomi took her cell phone out and dialed. The phone rang repeatedly and Kanan did not pick up. What's going on? Hitomi's face went pale. Come on, Kanan. Kano standing near enough to overhear that conversation grew increasingly anxious as he watched the pair stare at the phone. What was the right move here? Oh shoot, here we go. Should we keep waiting? He had the hope talking to Kanan would work out. Kano waited for the call to go through. At this point, they couldn't count on Kanan anymore. Kano rushed into action. Shh. Out. Okay. Couldn't count on Kanan. Screw it. He had the hope talking with Kanan would work out. Kano waited for the call to go through. But Kanan never answered. Oh no, damn it. Yeah, something happened to her in Totino? But see, Kano's heart is... Kano felt his heart pounding. Now then, shall I take what I came here for? Palmer took a step closer to Hitomi. Oh! Kano reacted instinctively. Freeze! He drew his gun and trained it on the criminal. Nearby pedestrians scattered in fear. Seizing the moment, Aichi darted in to protect her. Okay, so we can switch to Aichi. I don't think I want to do that just yet. I don't want to do it yet. Palmer let out a tiny sigh. So you're breaking the terms we agreed upon then. I don't negotiate with terrorists. Kano inched his way closer, his point of aim never wavering. Hitomi, he shouted. Call Kanan again. Again, Hitomi dialed his cell phone. No answer. Palmer opened the attaché case he was carrying. One more move and I'll shoot, Kano shouted. But the terrorists ignored the warning, producing a set of small glass vessels from within the case. Is that the cure? If you want to shoot me, then shoot me, he said. Assuming you don't mind this getting scattered about. Is that? Surely you don't need me to explain. Stanley was right. Alphard had weaponized the virus. Doing his best to conceal his horror, Kano tried to sound defiant. How can I even know that's real? You can't let that loose here. You can't let it loose here. And why is that? Because if you do, you'll be infected too. True. But so were all of the innocent bystanders around us. A thin smile crawled across Palmer's face. Did you come here to carry out a suicide attack, Mr. Alphard? I have no desire to die here. All I want is to get a little of this girl's blood and then go quietly on my way. But that all depends on you, doesn't it? His face is overflowing with confidence. Kano couldn't shake the feeling that something was off here. Something about this man's demeanor hinted at something. Well then, what will it be? Palmer continued. He has an ace in the hole, that's what it is. He wouldn't be so confident if he didn't have no type of other game plan. There is always some other game plan. He just shows up there, outnumbered. He's not stupid. Will you condemn the people of Shibuya to death? Like, the guy isn't stupid. It's something, man. Cursing inwardly, Kano lowered his gun. Palmer flashed a triumphant grin, then resumed his stroll toward Hitomi. She stood frozen on the spot. No, she can't move. I'd be shocked too. Can you? Dude, who would have thought? Susumu. The shout had come from... we can switch again. I kind of want to see this through, though. Kano's story, all the way till we get to be continued, or keep out. But sometimes you have to switch and select those choices with the other character, then jump back, or you get a bad ending. But I just want to see it straight through. In an instant, a dozen members of SOS headed toward Palmer from all sides. Tough luck, pal, Susumu said. Turns out we're not actually innocent bystanders. It was his turn to grin. You're completely surrounded. Give up and tell us where tell us the password now. And just for the record, we ain't scared of no virus. The tough-looking young men radiated bravado. Without hesitation, they closed in around the kidnapper. Surrounded? You certainly don't look like police. Palmer cast a bemused glance around himself. You're right about that, Aichi said. I mean, just take a look. I gathered up a bunch of people who love Shibuya more than their own lives in order to take your ass down. He kept Hitomi shielded behind him while he spoke. There's no escape, he declared. You've lost. Lost? Me? Well, it sure doesn't look like you're going to get away. Palmer grimaced at Aichi's words. I see. Then it appears your negotiations are at a close. Enough of the high and mighty act. Susumu stomped aggressively toward Palmer. Hey, Kano snapped. Easy now. We couldn't risk a scuffle, seeing the virus crashing to the ground. What a shame. Palmer swung his right arm up high. He threw it up anyway. Everyone watched in dismay as his hand shot up. The vials he'd been holding snailed upwardly against the backdrop of the evening sky. Oh, look out! Aichi shouted. Catch him! Catch him! Tremendous blast blew Kano off his feet as he crashed to the pavement. Searing pain shot through his entire body. He knew at once a bomb had gone off. But why? It didn't make any sense. Alphard had no intention of carrying out a suicidal terror attack. Kano was certain of that. If that had been his intent, he could have just done so at any time without going through the trouble of putting on this whole charade. Was there some reason that this guy would blow himself up under these circumstances? At this specific moment, as he lay dying, Kano had a thought. Could it be? Had Stanley not come to the scramble because... Oh, shoot. Bad ending. This is one of the ones where you have to switch. Shucks. Bad ending. Let's see. Let's see what it says. So we can switch to Aichi twice, and we can switch to Stanley. Mysterious explosion. Okay, so what's the hint? It didn't even give a what? So Stanley's supposed to show up? There are no hints after 1800. What the? Shoot. Kano's plan of action for the scramble. Okay. Let's take out with the rest of the group. His own mind was still caught up with the question of what he should himself do. He couldn't shake the conversation that he needed to head to the lab, even assuming that Alphard really did turn up at the scramble, and assuming that he carried out another bioterror attack there. The worst that could happen would be a disaster in Shibuya. Terrible though that might be, it would be far worse to let Alphard, who was already in possession of the UA virus, destroy the world's only supply of antiviral. If he succeeded at that scheme, his bioweapon would be unstoppable. He could hold the entire planet in the grip of fear. A terrorist arms dealer must never be allowed to obtain that kind of power. Exactly. Stanley couldn't take that risk. Even if he was wrong in his suspicions, it only made sense to shore up the defense of the lab. There was only one person he could count on now, Kanan. She was on the way to the lab already. If Stanley could alert her to his conclusions, it would make it that much harder for Alphard to carry out his plan. If nothing else, hopefully she could buy time for Stanley to get there. Stanley approached Kano. "You need to go to the scramble without me," he said. "What?" Kano was visibly shocked. "Where's this coming from all of a sudden? Please, don't ask me to explain. Something else has come up, and I have to see to it." Stanley hated having to do this. He wished he could explain everything. If he made any unusual moves now, though, there was a risk Alphard would pick up on it. There was no telling where the mastermind might be watching. It was better to keep his companions in the dark just in case. "I understand," Kano said. "Do what you have to do and come back soon. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more. It's all right. I'll find a way to get by." Kano gave him a thumbs up. The sight brought back some painful memories. Up until just a few hours ago, Stanley had instinctively seen Kano as all too naive, and now he finally knew why. Kano was just like his younger brother, Frank. They might have looked very different, but in a way, they mixed up their responsibilities with their personal feelings. They were totally alike. Stanley couldn't discount that naiveness. How about that? In the end, that was all part of the human condition. "Jack, are you really okay with this?" Frank cast an anxious look at the older brother as they made their way to the University of Chicago campus. "It's my responsibility to look after you," Stanley told him. "As long as you take your studying seriously, I'm all for it." Frank had been worrying about tuition costs as he prepared for college. After losing their parents 5 years earlier, the two had struggled to get by. "Yeah, but..." Stanley sat both hands on his brother's shoulders. "Listen to me, Frank. You're my brother and I care about you. I just want whatever you do to be something you can be proud of." "All right, Jack, I hear you. And thanks." "Kano, promise me one thing." "What's that?" "Once this is all over, you'll go have a beer with me." "That's the promise now, remember?" Kano flashed him a grateful smile. And as that smile, Stanley again saw a little something to Frank. Hurrying out of Indo-Electronics, Stanley dialed up to Tino. Jump to Tino, but I think I'm a... Stanley, what's going on? What I'm about to tell you is mere conjecture on my part. But for now, let's assume I'm mostly on the right track. He took a deep breath and stilled his nerves. I think Alphard is heading to the lab. He's planning on hitting it to destroy the antiviral. Are you serious? Latino's voice was laced with apprehension. Yes. You need to turn back right away. I'll go to the lab with Kanan. The detective's only reply was silence. Did you hear me, Tatino? This is an opponent who's out of your league. Turn back. I'll handle the... I can't do that now. Tatino's tone was calm and steady. My job is to get Maria to the lab as soon as humanly possible. Whether Alfred is coming or not doesn't change that. Don't be absurd. Even if you do have Kanan with you, you can't keep Maria safe and still win the fight that's coming. I'll give my own life to protect that girl if it comes down to it. Stanley could tell he'd never overcome this degree of stubbornness. Fine, have it your way then. But I'm heading to the lab too. Whatever you do, do not let your guard down. Understood? Latino would be no match for Alfred. If the terrorist spotted the detective, he'd probably kill him on the spot. Reassurance or encouragement would be meaningless. Instead, Stanley left Tatino with one final warning. If it comes down to it, just shoot him. If you hesitate for a moment, he'll have you dead. Find some way to stall until I get there. If he realizes we're on him, you're done for. Just keep Maria safe. Just your job. Okay, so just shoot him. If you hesitate, he'll have you dead. I feel like that's not the answer. I think it's either B or C. Find some way to stall until I get there. We'll go with C. Just keep Maria safe. That's your job. Tino hung up without saying anything. Stanley made it to his car, still parked on the roadside. Jumping in, he sped off towards the laboratory. Traffic had gotten pretty congested by the time he made it out to the main road. Chaos and panic from the area around Shibuya Station was starting to spread. His frustration steadily growing, Stanley fought his way along the congested streets. Just as his aggravation was beginning to boil over, he finally arrived at Okoshi Pharmaceutical Laboratory. He could tell immediately that something was wrong. A plume of smoke was rising from one of the laboratory windows. It was thick and black, clearly the result of a fire of some sort. Stanley hopped out of the car, drawing his gun as he approached the door. He was about to make his way inside when the scent in the air stopped him in his tracks. The smoke carried the telltale odor of explosive residue. He hadn't made it on time. All his fears had come to pass. Maria, Osawa, Latina, Kanan, they were all surely dead. And no doubt the antiviral had all been either stolen or incinerated. In all likelihood, moreover, viral samples from the lab had been dispersed by the explosion. Stanley cursed. He already inhaled some of the smoke. This really was the worst-case scenario. They'd been utterly defeated. Stanley called up Gordon to request backup for a sweep to the laboratory. He knew that it was already too late to change anything. Even so, Stanley would go through all the motions before he admitted defeat. Another bad ending? Jesus Christ, man. Complete failure. There are no hints after 1800. Alright, so we're going to go back up. I think I made the wrong choice. It can't be just shoot because he shows up at the scramble. If we get to the same ending, bad ending, no matter what, then we're supposed to switch to a different character. All three choices lead to the same ending. That means, yep, We're supposed to switch. I'm gonna try it one more time. I'm gonna try the other choice. We're probably supposed to switch it to Tano and then go from there. 'Cause I don't think it's just shooting. Once they made it past Shibuya Station, the roads were relatively clear. They ought to make it to the lab in no time. Phone. Stanley, what's going on? He asked him. What I'm about to tell you is mere conjecture on my part. But for now, let's assume I'm mostly on the right track. Stanley's voice was filled with tension. Tino braced himself for bad news. I think Alphard is heading to the lab. He's planning on hitting it to destroy the antiviral. Are you serious? It was even worse than he had feared. Alphard heading to the lab? Yes, you need to turn back right away. Is something wrong? Kanan asked, peering at him from the back seat. He couldn't hide the fact that he was trembling. She seemed perfectly calm, unfazed by the possibility of further complications. Perhaps she had already anticipated something like this happening. Did you hear me, Tino? Stanley said. This is an opponent who is out of your league. Turn back, I'll handle it. I can't do that, Tino replied, managing to regain his composure. My job is to get Maria to the lab as soon as humanly possible. Whether Alphard is coming or not, doesn't change that. Don't be absurd. Even if you do have Kanan with you, you can't keep Maria safe and still win the fight that's coming. Maybe Stanley was right. Almost certainly he was, but Tano couldn't put Maria's life in danger by turning back in order to save his own. Kanan! Tino glanced at the young woman in the back seat. Yes? If Alphard shows up, don't worry about protecting me. Just keep Maria safe. You got it. That was all Tino needed to hear. I'll give my own life to protect that girl if it comes down to it, he told Stanley. Fine, have it your way then. But I'm heading to the lab too. Whatever you do not let your guard down. Understood. Well, Stanley, Kanan asked. She probably already surmised the situation, even though she showed no sign of concern. At last, the minivan arrived at Okoshi Pharmaceutical. Tino pulled up at the front gate and got out of the vehicle. Off to one side of the entrance was an intercom for contacting the security room. I'm assuming you've already heard the details from the director. Tino barked into the intercom. Open up. We haven't heard anything from Director Osawa, the security guard spat back. And moreover, the laboratory is currently on lockdown. I'm sorry, but not even Director Osawa is allowed inside. That's ridiculous. Tino scowled at the intercom in frustration. Then a car came racing towards him along the street. The sound of screeching brakes filled the air, and the vehicle skidded to a halt, and then Kenji Osawa jumped out in front from the driver's seat. Maria! Osawa rushed over to Tino, then to Maria, where she lay in the minivan. He looked carefully at his daughter's face. Oh, thank goodness. She still hasn't gone symptomatic. Mr. Osawa, why aren't people being allowed into the laboratory? Osawa tilted his head. They're not? Tino explained what the guard had said. That's ridiculous. Osawa immediately called the security guard on the intercom. He got the same story. "You've got to be kidding me," Osawa raged. "I'm the lab director here." But the security guard wasn't hearing it. "I'm sorry, sir. These orders came from Mr. Makino." "No. So I'm just supposed to sit out here and watch my daughter die?" Tino racked his brain for other ideas. Maybe they'd have to climb the gate and break their way in. Then over the intercom, he heard the sound of a phone ringing in the security room. The security guard answered it without muting the intercom speaker. His voice was faintly audible. He sounded rather differential. Who in the world could he be talking to? Before Tatino could muse further, the gate suddenly opened. "Huh? Why?" Tatino and Osawa looked at one another in surprise. "I have a message for Director Osawa from Mr. Makino," the security guard said. From Makino, Osawa huddled over the intercom and had a brief, startled voice exchange with the guard. "What was that all about?" Tatino asked. It would seem that my wife was able to pull some strings for us." Osawa smiled uncomfortably. Tatino didn't have the time to wonder what that might mean. "Has that lock been open for us as well?" he asked. The smile disappeared from Osawa's face. "No. She wasn't able to do anything about the final layer of security." "I see. Well, let's regroup inside for now." "Very well," Osawa said. "By the way, who's going to be hacking the password?" "I am," Kanan replied. "Oh, so you're Kanan. We should get you to the laboratory then." After checking to make sure there was nobody suspicious lurking nearby, Tatino headed to the laboratory with the others. It took about 20 seconds for the elevator to reach the first basement level. The biohazard storage area was evidently fairly deep underground. Doors opened to reveal a long straight corridor. There was a door at the far end of the device at one side for checking IDs. Kanan approached the device, setting the laptop she borrowed from the security room on the floor in front of it. She affixed a scrap paper with Kaiji Osawa's password written on it to the side of the monitor. Then she connected a series of cables in both the laptop and device. Tatino tried to contain a sense of urgency, focused on keeping watch over Kanan as she worked. Kanan began to slowly tap away at the keyboard. Her screen displayed a series of numeric values that changed with each keystroke. She checked the changes carefully, timing the movements of her fingers according to some formula. The ID device let out a warning sound and the display lit up. Incorrect password. The input had been rejected. Was this really going to work? Tatino felt his impatience growing. Saw his face showed a similar unease. Kanan turned to look at them. "How many failed attempts are we allowed?" "2, I believe," Osawa answered. "After the third failed attempt, the storage area is locked down and can't be reopened without input from the full board of directors." Jesus. Kanan had already resumed typing before he finished speaking. There's a very slight difference in power consumption from the device when it processes a correct password compared to an incorrect one. There's a minuscule difference in the time it takes to run the process as well. If I can analyze those and compare them. Kanan's voice trailed off. She continued working. There was another warning sound, a second failed attempt. A single bead of sweat ran down Tatino's forehead, but Kanan didn't so much as bat an eyelash. "Ah, I see." Her face remained full of confidence. "It won't be a problem," she assured them. "This isn't my first time with this type of mechanism." Slowly, one at a time, Kanan pressed key after key while keeping her eyes fixed on the laptop screen. With each keystroke, a waveform at the top of the screen, looking almost like an echocardiogram, read out, wobbled slightly. The laptop let out a tiny sound. A sequence of 10 characters appeared on the screen, and Kanan read them off. Tino jotted them down in his notebook, then stepped up to the scanner to enter the twin password for Osawa and Tanaka. The door opened. Kanan let out a sigh of relief. Saul gathered Maria and headed to the storage area. Tino felt the surge of relief as he watched the two of them go. Kanan, meanwhile, was fastidiously putting away her equipment. And what do you think? Tino asked her. About what? She asked, her gaze serious as ever. About Alphard. Why hasn't he shown up? If what Stanley had said was true, Alphard ought to be coming their way. It was both strange and unsettling that they'd been able to get inside without any interference. This isn't over yet, Tino continued. Don't let your guard down until we know Alphard has been dealt with. Right. You keep those two safe, she said. I'll go check things out front. She got back into the elevator and headed out. Left alone in the hallway, Tino was enveloped by an eerie silence. He drew his gun from his holster. They went to the storage area to join Osawa and the daughter. His cane and soles of his shoes echoed on the hard surfaces. At the end of the hallway, Tino came to another door. He took up position there, determined to guard the two individuals inside. This was the only way in. If anyone was coming, they'd have to pass through here. Putting his back to the door, he let out a sigh. The great weight of exhaustion settled over him. Too much had happened over the past few hours. He recalled too many painful memories that had long been buried deep within his mind, and he realized that his whole life was rife with things he could never undo. If you're coming, then come on. Tino aimed his gun down the empty corridor. Right now, he just needed to protect Maria. That had become his life's sole purpose. Suddenly, the door that was in front of him was blown off its hinges with a tremendous explosion. A shockwave traveling down the corridor struck him an instant later. Tino had neither the time to wonder what had happened, nor any chance to avert his fate. Oh, shoot. Are you kidding me? Huh? Alright guys, thanks for watching. My name is Raven from the Sky. If you enjoyed the episode, drop a like and subscribe to the channel and the series grow. Take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.